There is a time for every purpose under heaven. There is a time for every purpose under heaven. Now, Ecclesiastes says this, of course, and we often think of this passage being delivered with a certain world weariness. It's a list. It's a list of things that happen, some good, some bad. However, there is another way to look at it. And that is a way that the Taoist philosopher Lao Tzu describes in our opening reading. From wonder to wonder, existence opens. From wonder to wonder, existence opens. Sometimes it's orderly, sometimes it's chaotic, sometimes you forget you're doing the children's focus. Stuff happens. But each is a wonder, and each opens in its time. There's a time for every purpose under heaven. For wonder into wonder, existence opens. And we get to travel for a time through the constantly opening wonders. And that can be a joyful opportunity if we take it. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there is an old Taoist story from another philosopher, another founder of that tradition named Xuanzhu that I would like to share with you. And in this story, Xuanzhu was fishing in a river when two powerful dignitaries from the kingdom of Chu, specifically the king of Chu, C-H'-U, a nation over 2,800 years ago in what we now call China. That king, that emperor, sent some dignitaries, and they showed up, and they offered Xuanzhu the job of prime minister. It's a good gig. Now, to truly picture it, we have to do a little updating. We need to imagine a couple of today's stereotypical United States senators. We have a couple now in our mind, but there could be others. Cabinet secretaries, you get the idea. Important functionaries that we see on TV. And they could be from either political party. In their expensive gray suits and their red ties, their carefully maintained hair and ubiquitous flag pins, obviously impressed with themselves and proud of their station. So these two powerful politicians glide up in their well-appointed watercraft to settle alongside Xuanzhu himself, an eccentric prophet, a legendary and respected teacher, standing knee-deep in the river with his waders on, looking for fish, a condition that probably some of us are familiar with. Now, naturally, the senators think that this simple curmudgeon, this philosophical fisherman, will be impressed by them and excited by the opportunity to help them wield the instruments of power. But the Taoist readers know that they didn't have a chance with Xuanzhu. Xuanzhu held on to the fishing pole, the story says, and without turning his head, he said, "I've heard there's a sacred tortoise in the capital of Chu that has been dead for 3,000 years, and that the king keeps it wrapped in cloth and boxed, and he stores it in the ancestral temple." Now, he asked the two politicians, would this tortoise rather be dead and have its bones left behind and honored in the temple? Or would it rather be alive and dragging its tail in the mud? Would it rather be dead and famous, or alive and dragging its tail in the mud? And these clever senators answered right away, it would rather be alive and dragging its tail in the mud. So Xuanzhu answers them and go away. I'm going to drag my tail in the mud too. Now, this is the spirit of Taoism, of course, but it exists in many religions, many different walks of faith, including our own. And we can forget this sometimes because religions that last a long time, like ours, have buildings and shrines, have status and reputation in the community, to the extent that a lot of those senators claim to actually belong to those religions that question their worldly ways. Established faiths possess status and reputation. That when you get into them, you realize that it is entirely divorced from the actual theology or spirituality that tradition represents. The status and the reputation, the buildings, the shrines, that's all beside the teachings and the message. For at the core of each faith, again, including our own, there is this idea that is sometimes described as humility, but it is so much more than that. You see, humility implies a certain lack of ambition, doesn't it? At least the way we use it. And there is an ambition in the religious worldview. There is a great ambition embedded in the urge toward connection. The educator and abolitionist Horace Mann once said, "If anyone seeks for greatness, let them forget greatness and ask for truth. And then they'll find both." It's on the front of your order of service. If anyone seeks for greatness, let them forget greatness and ask for truth, and then they will find both. Seeking truth over greatness is ambitious too. Which is to say that there is strength in following one's own nature, one's own truth, that transcends the structures of this world, even if when we do it, it looks like we're dragging our tails. Looks like we're slacking. Looks like maybe we're taking a little time off. One does not become great by following the rules of others. Jesus and John the Baptist were rebels, overturning tables, denouncing the powers pushing against the establishment around them. They were steeped in the Jewish prophetic tradition, the one where we find Amos declaring, "Away with the noise of your songs, I will not listen to the music of your harps, but let justice roll on like a river, righteousness like an ever-flowing stream." And perhaps somewhat less abrasively than Amos, this attitude is present in the wry observations of the writer of Ecclesiastes. "I know there is nothing better for people than to be happy," it says, "and to do good while they live." What they are all trying to say here, some more directly than others, is that there is a different way for us to order our lives than the one we are told to use. We don't need to entangle ourselves in the structures and determiners of success that have been developed and enforced by other human beings. Instead, we can set out on our own. We can set out on our own. All we need to find our way to the way, or enlightenment, or resurrection, all we need can already be found around us and inside us. This aspect or attitude of our walk of faith is more than just an academic exercise, something to think about on Sunday morning. It is a way to live every hour of every day. Great prophet Ferris Bueller. You know Ferris? Everyone knows Ferris. Ferris Bueller once said that life moves pretty fast. And if you don't stop and take a look around, you could miss it. We can choose a life of looking around, of dragging our tails in the mud. And lots of people try to do just that, try to set aside concerns for approval or fears of disapproval to follow the urgings of our hearts. that's what Paul is getting at in our reading today too. What Paul is saying when he says, I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. There is one body and one Spirit, just as you were called to one hope when you were called. There is one body, one Spirit, just as you were called to one hope when you were called. One hope. To Paul, the divine is not in a house you visit, but it is a body that we all inhabit. That was present equally to him when he was making tents, which was Paul's actual day job, or teaching at the synagogue. It's also why Xuanzhu felt no great ambition to be raised in status to prime minister. He would miss the river. He would miss the fish. He would miss his place in the transcendent order of things. In our reading today, the writer of Ecclesiastes tells us that there is a time for everything, from being born to dying, from war to peace. Dragging our tails in the fertile soil of our lives enables us to follow the way of nature, to meet it each time when it arrives, to stop and contemplate the clouds when they demand our attention, as we human beings are meant to do. And it's not just the nature out there, but our inner nature as well, isn't it? Our virtue, as the ancient Greeks would say. Feeling the pull of something beyond human ingenuity and understanding. There's so much striving, so much conflict, so much oppression in this world that it is hard to seek wisdom or to find peace today. So balance is something we practice in our own lives, or we should, so that we can achieve greater balance, not just in here for ourselves, but out there for everyone else. So what do? Is coming to church enough to turn the tide? It probably helps. Even though there is only one body and God is everywhere, this is the place where we can be reminded of our place in that body, putting down our tools for a moment so that we can pick them back up. So that when we pick them back up, we feel the holy in life. And fortunately, we all do much more than attend services. We are a committed group of people, and we will engage with the world. So it all comes down to engaging with balance, with intention, with authenticity. It all comes down to bringing our actual selves to that one body. It comes down to standing in the river with our waders on, or not. Now, ultimately, if we act with intention, that is from our best selves, understanding our place in the world, it doesn't matter if we are Hindu or Buddhist or Taoist or Christian or Muslim or Jewish or nothing in particular. For the goal is the same. That life, that true life, that truth that Horace Mann was seeking. A life of dragging our tails in the mud where we have been called to drag them, connects us to the great story of creation, keeping fear and anger in its place, allowing us to stand on solid ground in the midst of the great stream, to build a land and lives of hope and love and justice. So let's take yet another moment in silence to consider what river we meant to stand in and the one we are meant to stand in.